If your daily driving consists primarily of trips under 5 miles, your vehicle is experiencing severe service conditions that cause dramatically accelerated wear compared to highway driving, yet most drivers have no idea this is happening. According to automotive engineers and vehicle manufacturer maintenance guidelines, short trip driving is classified as severe duty operation that can reduce engine life by 30 to 50% and requires maintenance intervals cut in half compared to normal driving. The problem is that engines and transmissions need to reach full operating temperature to function efficiently and burn off contaminants, but trips under 5 miles rarely allow this to happen. Your engine never gets hot enough to evaporate moisture and fuel dilution from the crankcase oil. Your catalytic converter never reaches the 600 degrees needed to function properly, and carbon deposits build up in the intake system and combustion chambers. Independent oil analysis data from vehicles driven primarily on short trips shows contamination levels 2 to 3 times higher than vehicles driven longer distances, with significantly elevated fuel dilution, moisture content, and acidic compounds that corrode internal engine components. The worst part is that your odometer shows low mileage, giving a false impression that your vehicle has easy life, when the reality is that 10,000 miles of short trip city driving causes more wear than 20,000 miles of highway driving. Keep watching, because I'm going to explain exactly what happens during short trips, which vehicle systems suffer the most damage, how to modify your maintenance schedule, and what you can do to minimize the accelerated wear from unavoidable short-distance driving. Hey, if you like this kind of straight-to-the-point content with no BS, help me out here. Subscribe to the channel right now. It takes 2 seconds and guarantees you won't miss any tips that could save you some serious cash. Let me start by explaining what happens during cold starts and short trips from an engineering perspective. When you start a cold engine, several critical problems occur. First, oil hasn't circulated yet. When the engine sits overnight, or for several hours, oil drains back into the oil pan. During the first few seconds after starting, metal components operate with minimal lubrication until oil pressure builds and oil reaches all surfaces. This causes measurable wear. Studies show that a cold start produces as much engine wear as 50 miles of warm highway driving. Most engine wear, estimated at 70 to 80%, occurs during cold starts and warm-up periods. Second, fuel mixture runs extremely rich when cold. The engine computer dramatically increases fuel delivery during cold starts because cold fuel doesn't vaporize well. This rich mixture means excess fuel that doesn't burn completely. Some of this fuel washes past the piston rings into the crankcase, diluting the oil. Fuel dilution reduces oil viscosity and protective properties. Third, combustion produces water vapor and acidic compounds. When fuel burns, it creates water as a combustion byproduct, along with acids from sulfur compounds and gasoline. In a cold engine, these condense on cylinder walls, in the crankcase, and in the exhaust system. Normally, once the engine reaches operating temperature around 195 to 220 degrees Fahrenheit, this moisture evaporates and exits through the crankcase ventilation system. However, a 5-mile trip takes 15 to 20 minutes, and many engines don't reach full operating temperature in that time, especially in cold weather. The moisture and acids remain in the oil, corroding bearings, cylinder walls, and other internal components. Fourth, the catalytic converter cannot function when cold. Catalytic converters need to reach approximately 600 degrees to efficiently convert harmful emissions. During short trips, the cat never reaches this temperature, meaning your vehicle produces significantly higher emissions, and the converter experiences thermal stress from repeated heating and cooling cycles without reaching full operating temperature. Fifth, the transmission doesn't reach operating temperature either. Automatic transmissions need to reach 160 to 200 degrees to function at peak efficiency. Cold transmission fluid is thick and doesn't flow properly, causing harsh shifts and accelerated clutch wear. Most transmissions have their own temperature sensor and adaptive strategies, but short trips prevent proper warm-up. Now let me explain the specific damage and accelerated wear caused by short trip driving patterns. Engine oil contamination is the primary concern. Oil analysis from vehicles driven primarily short trips consistently shows elevated levels of fuel dilution, often 5 to 8% compared to 1 to 2% in vehicles with longer trips. Fuel in the oil acts as a solvent, breaking down oil additives and reducing viscosity. It also increases oxidation and acid formation. Moisture content in short trip vehicle oil can be 3 to 5 times higher than normal. Water in oil creates sludge, especially when combined with combustion byproducts. The sludge clogs oil passages and accumulates in the valve train, reducing oil flow to critical components. Acid formation from moisture and combustion byproducts corrodes bearings and other metal surfaces. Oil analysis showing elevated iron, copper, and lead indicates bearing wear from this corrosion. Carbon deposits build up significantly faster with short trips. The intake valves, combustion chambers, and piston tops accumulate carbon because the engine never gets hot enough for complete combustion and self-cleaning. Direct injection engines are particularly susceptible because they don't have fuel washing over intake valves. Carbon buildup reduces engine efficiency, causes rough idle, and can lead to misfires. Professional carbon cleaning services cost $500 to $1,500. Exhaust system corrosion accelerates dramatically. Moisture that condenses in the exhaust system during short trips causes rust from the inside out. Exhaust pipes, mufflers, and catalytic converters rust through much faster on short trip vehicles. In cold climates, this problem intensifies. Battery life decreases because short trips don't allow the alternator sufficient time to fully recharge the battery after starting. Each start draws significant power, but a 5-mile trip might only restore 60 to 70% of that energy. Over time, the battery operates in a partially discharged state, sulfating the plates and reducing capacity. Batteries in short trip vehicles often fail in 3 to 4 years instead of the typical 5 to 7 years. Brake system problems develop because brakes don't get hot enough to dry out. Moisture accumulates in brake fluid faster, reducing boiling point and causing internal corrosion. Brake pads may develop glazing or uneven wear. Tire wear patterns can be worse because tires don't reach optimal operating temperature and pressure, leading to flat spotting and irregular wear. Vehicle manufacturers recognize short trip driving as severe duty and specify different maintenance schedules accordingly. If you check your owner's manual, you'll find 2 maintenance schedules, normal and severe service. Severe service includes frequent short trips, stop-and-go traffic, extreme temperatures, dusty conditions, and towing. For short trip drivers, the severe service schedule is mandatory. This typically means oil changes every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, instead of 7,500 to 10,000 miles. Transmission fluid changes every 30,000 miles instead of 60,000 or never. More frequent inspection of belts, hoses, fluids, and filters. The reason is simple. Short trips cause contamination to build up faster than mileage accumulates. Your oil might have only 3,000 miles on it, but if those are all short trip miles, the oil is as contaminated as 6,000 normal miles. Following normal service intervals with short trip driving will result in premature wear and expensive repairs. Now let me give you practical strategies to minimize damage from unavoidable short trip driving. Strategy 1 is combining trips when possible. Instead of making 3 separate 2-mile trips throughout the day, combine them into one 6-mile trip. This allows the engine to reach operating temperature once rather than multiple cold starts. Strategy 2 is extending individual trips occasionally. If your commute is 3 miles, consider taking a slightly longer route or running an errand after work to get 10 to 15 miles of warm engine operation. Once or twice per week, take a 20 to 30-minute highway drive to fully heat the engine, transmission, and exhaust system, allowing moisture and contaminants to burn off. Strategy 3 is following the severe service maintenance schedule religiously. Cut your oil change interval in half. Change oil every 3,000 to 5,000 miles, even though it seems excessive. Used oil analysis can verify contamination levels if you want scientific proof. Change transmission fluid every 30,000 miles. Inspect and potentially replace air filters, cabin filters, and spark plugs more frequently. Strategy 4 is using synthetic oil, which handles contamination and temperature extremes better than conventional oil. Synthetic maintains viscosity better when diluted with fuel and resists breakdown from moisture and acids. Strategy 5 is letting the engine idle for 30 to 60 seconds after cold starts before driving. This allows oil pressure to build and oil to reach critical components. Don't idle for extended periods, just enough for oil circulation. Strategy 6 is driving gently until the engine reaches operating temperature. Avoid hard acceleration and high RPM during warm-up. Let the engine temperature gauge reach the middle position before driving aggressively. Strategy 7 is parking in a garage if possible. This keeps the engine warmer, reducing the temperature delta on each start and decreasing moisture condensation. An engine starting at 60 degrees garage temperature warms up faster and experiences less thermal stress than one starting at 20 degrees outside temperature. Strategy 8 is using a block heater or oil pan heater in cold climates. These keep the engine and oil warm, dramatically reducing cold start wear. Strategy 9 is considering whether your vehicle choice matches your driving pattern. Large V8 engines and turbocharged engines suffer more from short trips than smaller naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engines. If you primarily drive short distances, a smaller, more efficient engine might be more appropriate and will last longer under these conditions. So here's the bottom line. Driving less than 5 miles per trip is classified as severe service that causes 2 to 3 times more engine wear than highway driving. Oil contamination increases dramatically with elevated fuel dilution and moisture. Engines never reach operating temperature to burn off contaminants. Following normal maintenance schedules with short trip driving will cause premature failure. Switch to severe service intervals with oil changes every 3,000 to 5,000 miles. Use synthetic oil, combine trips when possible, and occasionally take longer drives to fully heat the engine. Your low odometer reading doesn't indicate easy vehicle life when those miles are all short trips. Treat your vehicle according to the actual severe conditions it experiences, and it will provide reliable service despite the challenging duty cycle.